Don't worry, this won't be a super long video, but here's what I want to talk about. I don't think the Detroit Lions are going to draft Jalen Carter, and I could eat crow on this one. I could have pie in my face, whatever term you want to use. Like, I know full well this could end up being a really dumb take, but this is my take, and I'm still going to make it. So I don't think the Detroit Lions are going to draft Jalen Carter, but it's not for the reason you think. And I haven't thought the Detroit Lions are going to draft Jalen Carter since a very simple time. It was a Saturday, New Year's Eve, the 31st of December. And I was watching because at that time we were still absolutely in running to have a 1-2-3 pick. And I thought, this is the guy who's been rumored to be better than even the quarterbacks. And if you have a top 3 pick, you'll probably be able to get him. But here he is. So I'm watching Jalen Carter, and I'm not saying he's not physically gifted. I'm not saying he wasn't dominant. He was. He was. But there was one other thing that became very, very clear to me. Dude was gassed for the whole second half. And if you were watching that game, he was one of the focal points because as his defense was getting lit up, and don't get me wrong, I understand he was on the field a lot, so he had reason to be tired, but he was tired. And here's the interesting part about that. Now, I'm not saying I watched a ton of Georgia football throughout the year. I'm not saying anything like that. I watched enough, like a few games. And I watched Carter, but this game looked different. He was entirely gassed. And the reason for that, he had a month off. It had been at least 3 weeks, I believe it was, since they had played. Maybe it was 4 weeks, but it had been 3 or 4 weeks since they had played before. Dude did not stay disciplined to stay in shape before the national semifinal game. He would go to practice, things like that, but he did not stay in game shape. And you can sit here and say it's speculation. All I can say is he was huffing and puffing. And then you start hearing reports and rumors about how he needed strong leaders and captains that would keep him in line and that would help keep him motivated and in the weight room and getting in good shape and things like that. And then what we see is, look, I will talk about the accident, where he was, I believe it was drag racing or racing with a couple of other people. Their car went, crashed, people died. He left the scene. Like, all of that, I get it, is really, really bad. That's up to the Detroit Lions to figure out the character stuff. Like, it's up to them to figure out the character stuff. And whether or not he's a person that we can have in the locker room. But what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have talked about over and over and over again is they love guys who love football, that eat, sleep, and breathe football. And I don't think Jalen Carter is one of those guys. And I understand, like, I'm not even going to hold his pro day. Let's say I'm not going to hold his pro day against him, where he didn't finish his pro day. He looked winded doing the simplest of sprints and drills. He was 9-10 pounds overweight. Let's say I don't hold that against him. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell cares about the tape. What do you put on tape? And you can't tell me that they don't put the tape on of the game against Ohio State and see him sucking wind. The dude was so tired. And maybe this is revisionist history by me. Maybe it is. But I remember watching the game. I might have even texted Chris while I was watching the game, my buddy here at Sports Talk Detroit, and been like, man, Carter looks extremely gassed. And I just remember thinking to myself, this is so weird because I don't feel like I'm getting a good indicator of what type of player he is because he wasn't in game shape. You can't tell me that if I noticed that Campbell and Holmes didn't notice that. This is before all the stuff. Like, maybe. I actually don't know the time in which the incident occurred. I don't know if it was the night after the national championship, the national semifinal, or the SEC championship, but I don't think it had happened yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But I still don't think it changes my argument. And so it's just a struggle for me to see us picking him talent wise. He is absolutely, if he's there at 6, oh my goodness, he has the talent. But if they are close at all, because you will very likely have one of these 3 players left. Jalen Carter, actually, you probably will have at least one of these players left, maybe 2. But Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, and Tyree Wilson, if you don't think the talent gap is that big between them, or even like a Christian Gonzalez, I'm telling you right now, they're going to go the other way. And so that's my take. Have your take on the comments below. And let me know, did you see that game? Did anybody else notice that? I understand that now that game was like 3.5 months away, but it is just that memory is seared in my mind. I can't get it out that he would just was so tired. All right, I've said that like 100 times. You're probably tired of me saying that he was tired. So I'm going to stop this video. Watch the draft with us on the 27th, and you can say, Craig, you were wrong. Doesn't mean I don't want Carter, but you can tell me I was wrong. It was a bad take. We drafted Carter, and I'll be just happy enough to have that. I'm sure we did a video last year around this time saying why the Lions won't take Aiden Hutchinson. Whoops. All right. We mess up sometimes. We're not perfect. We're not in the war room with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and the rest of the crew. So we will mess up every once in a while, but we like to think we get to know a little bit by watching it all the time and consistently reporting on it and consistently reading articles and just reading what they're saying and what has been said to what has been done. So anyways, I said I'd end the video. Leave your comments below, hit the subscribe button on your way there, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.